So it's about getting out of our geospatial bubble. I think we've all been guilty in the geospatial industry in being this little kind of community that love being together, talking about geospatial, moan about the fact that nobody understands us. But actually this is not true anymore. I think people can understand us now, and it's about how we project that and articulate it in a way that others can understand and join in.
Hello and welcome to Looking Up with Up 42, our talk show with inspiring geospatial changemakers. My name is Viviana, and today I have the pleasure to speak with Olive Powell, co-founder of Women Plus in Geospatial and Head of Geography and Geospatial at the UK's Office for National Statistics. Hi, Olive. Welcome as our guest today. When we first met, I remember you mentioned that not everyone knows they want to be in geospatial from the very beginning. What does it mean, and how did you start?
Hi, Viviana, and thanks for having me on here today. What I meant was that, and maybe I'm generalizing my own experience, but when I studied geography a bit as a chance. I didn't know what to do after my French baccalaureate, and I fell in love with geography. But then it's only when I started doing my master's in environmental sciences when we had a little bit of GIS module, which at the time I kind of didn't really click about how great it was. But then I started working on flood modeling with GIS, and then realizing how much potential it had, that actually I fell in love with it, and then decided that was it. I was going to do my career in geospatial. And then so what I mean is, geospatial and GIS has been taught in geography studies or environmental kind of degrees, and it's used commonly in environmental problems or looking at environmental modeling. But actually, at the time, I've been in the industry for 20 years. It's changed a lot. At the time, that was the kind of pattern. But what I realized is that you could actually apply geospatial and GIS techniques in any kind of areas. And so I moved to the police at some point. I worked a little bit in the Environment Agency in the UK, and then I joined the police as a criminal intelligence analyst. And I realized that the police was quite didn't reach the potential for GIS and how to maximize its use for crime pattern analysis and all this kind of stuff. It was kind of at the beginning, really. For me, it was a no-brainer. You have to use geospatial technology to be able to understand what's going on. And it brings that unique spatial way or strategic way to look at problems. So I thought this is like an opportunity to bring that in. So I spent obviously 16 years in the police service, first as an analyst, teaching other analysts to do geospatial, and then as a GIS manager, bringing it into trying to provide geospatial solutions for different business areas. And the reason I was doing it, because I was convinced that was necessary, and it was an added value to all of these different businesses. And people were very receptive because they thought, this is a new way of thinking, but actually they weren't a geospatial person. So how could they have known if from that kind of traditional way of getting into geospatial? And I think now we're at the stage where we are all, geospatial is more, not understood, but I'd say that it might be pushing it a little bit. But people have used Google Maps and sat navs, and so it's kind of more at people's reach, so they can do that leap and start being interested in the subject. So in a way, what I'm saying is, you could be a criminologist and discovering geospatial and become a geospatial specialist, or you can be in retail management or with logistics. What I'm saying, you could go in geospatial from any background without realizing at the beginning that is a career path. So things like looking up is actually a great thing, because what you're doing is creating those opportunities to see people, like a glimpse about geospatial careers, and it might mean that we bring in more people from different backgrounds. So I think that's what I meant when I said that.
Great, thank you, Olive. I think you're a bit of a pioneer and definitely very innovative approach to bring this knowledge in industries and companies that were not familiar with it. And you definitely hit the nail in the head when you talk about this channel. I think this is really the purpose of opening the doors to other possibilities and other applications. But let's talk about Women Plus in geospatial. I know that it all started with a single tweet, and it's now a growing professional network with over 4,700 women across the globe. So what experience led you one day to think, that's it, things need to be different?
Just to be clear, obviously, this network is not down to me. It's down to a myriad and many, many, many volunteers and people that are as dedicated as I am to the cause. For me, it started, and I only been a contributor to Women in Geospatial, and I'll explain why. So what happened as I said, I joined the police as a criminal intelligence analyst, and actually in the analytical community, that was quite diverse. People from different backgrounds, different genders. It was very mixed, and I kind of got accustomed to this. And then I became the JS manager, which was more of a IT related category of jobs, about solution architecture, about how you manage databases and how you kind of do apps and things like that, which is obviously more of an IT role. And I realized that then I started only talking to men in IT department. And then I was chairing the national, almost, it's called like a GIS user group for police. So we've got a representative. I was the representative as one of my police force, but there was like one representative doing GIS in each police force. So we had a bit of a group nationally. And then often I was the only one at the meeting as a woman. And whilst, there's never been any problem, you kind of started thinking, what? How is that possible? Why am I the only one? And then, and I didn't have a team at the time in my own police force, and I was looking to recruit a new member of staff. And then also I got approached by women to say they'd like to volunteer and help out to gain a bit of experience. And so I ended up at that similar time having a team of basically myself and 3 women, 2 volunteers and 1 member of staff. And I realized that I not only missed having that kind of interaction, but also I realized how their way of thinking was very different from the other people that I've been working with. And this is where I realized that, well, it can't be that it's just men. Obviously, we are the example of being able to do it and having some kind of constructive, I guess, or positive contribution to the whole geospatial field. So I remember in 2018 thinking we really need to have some kind of network, because in America they had the Women in GIS network, and then in 2019 I actually tweeted to say I wouldn't mind doing something in the UK. I don't know how to do it, but I'm happy to try. Let me know if you want to. And at that same time, someone replied to me saying, hold on, there's something going on. It started already, which that same year. So almost our brain was connected. My colleague and co-founder and director, Julie Wagaman, started that tweet and actually saying, let's start Women Plus in Geospatial. Who's with us? And then we had 300 people joining that same day. She kind of started all the thing, really. And then I thought, well, rather than doing something separate, I'm happy to contribute, invest my time, make it grow. And so I joined in the effort. And it's only because, we grew, I put more time maybe than others, that we kind of now I got to the point where I'm directing with my other 2 director, Clara and Julia. But it's a joint effort. But I think that realization was at that point where I was a minority, but still able to work with women, and realizing how much we can add to it, and how basically we need to make sure that we have a space in the industry.
Thank you. I think it's admirable what you did, and definitely you were answering and responding to an existing need. And I also like the fact that you have that plus in the name, and that also hints at the fact that it's an inclusive community. So well done with that. Also, in our previous episodes, for those who are watching, we've discussed using geospatial technology for the most disparate applications, including some special banking plans, for example, for women in underserved communities. And you yourself experience and witness what the police could do with the potential of geospatial technology. Now, at Up42, we are precisely doing that. We are trying to open up and unlock the possibilities and the potential of geospatial technology by making it easier to access data and analytics. So how do you think this is helping your community, our community, and what's missing currently at an industry level?
I think what Up42 is doing is very good. Obviously, you won an award last week about what you do. But I think it's less about what we are missing. Because obviously geospatial, the thing that I love about geospatial is that possibilities are endless. There's so much applications, so much opportunities that we can push with geospatial information and geospatial data and geospatial technology. And effectively, you'll always be missing something because there'll always be a new idea coming in that hasn't been thought of. But the only way that you get to that point is if we have a diverse community that can bring in those ideas. Because if we are just the geospatial purist, if I say, we might think of only one way of thinking, and then therefore we might be stuck in terms of creating new opportunities and new products or whatever it is. So I'd say, I think as we understand that geospatial is ubiquitous and being used in any sector, we need to bring in the people that are not geospatial to kind of think about their problems and tell us what they need, or even contribute to what they need to fix, what are the problems we need to solve and how we're going to solve them, and what data maybe doesn't exist yet, or what application doesn't exist yet. So it's about getting out of our geospatial bubble. I think we've all been guilty in the geospatial industry in being this little kind of community that love being together, talking about geospatial, moaning about the fact that nobody understands us. But actually this is not true anymore. I think people can understand us now, and it's about how we project that and articulate it in a way that others can understand and join in. The other thing that I think is really important to consider is our responsibility, so the ethical kind of side of it. I mean, geospatial data becomes more granular, more accessible, to a point that it could be quite harmful for some individuals and for some if it's in the wrong hands. And I think as geospatial experts and providers, we need to embrace that responsibility and make sure that data is used for good as opposed to bad, and putting those safeguarding mechanism in a way in that. So yeah, in a way, for me, it's about diversity, making sure that we're bringing other people to maximize the possibilities, but in a way that is safe for others to use.
Thank you very much, Olive. I fully agree. And with every new technology, I think it's important that with mass adoption, we also consider the ethical aspect. And this is something that definitely needs to be part of the conversation. Thanks again. And this concludes our episode for Looking Up with Up42. I hope you enjoyed it and you come back next month for another episode. In the meantime, please check our website, up42.com, to learn more about our geospatial platform and access more geospatial resources. Thank you and have a nice day.